Time is now 7:01. Officially open call to order the Dayton Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting, Tuesday, October 24th, Old Town Hall, Somerset Ave. The Zoom information is posted on the agenda that was posted online with the URL. The meeting ID is 744-646-2815. Passcode is 651342. And the phone number to dial in is 305-224-1968. And just a note for the bottom of the agenda, this is a public meeting being video and audio recorded for cable broadcast, and we do have residents from the public and also regarding cases on Zoom tonight as well. This agenda is subject to revisions and additions up until meeting time. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. And if we could please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, so we do have a full board tonight. Zachary Karen, chairman of the board. We have Greg Logan, the vice chair. Jonathan G-A-L-E, Gale, the clerk. Who is the clerk? Elise Vincent. We have Susan Pritchard, and we have David Phillips, who are here as voting members. So we can confirm the next meeting date, which would be right after Thanksgiving, so November 28th, 2023. The people who are here for the public hearing, hypothetically, if we had to continue your case to that day, would that work? If the applicant is here? So if
He's online. Mr. Mason, are you available on November 28th, should your matter be continued?
Yes, if he isn't, I am.
Okay, good, thank you.
Don't worry about him.
Oh, he's just here for,
that would
okay.
be the only, but that's the only new agenda item that we have for tonight, so that would just be, how about any board members, do we have enough? Is anyone not going to be here or can't make it? I know it's after Thanksgiving, but it is kind of a holiday time, so if anyone can't be there that day, that's fine. But we just need to know now before we assign voting members to that. Is that gonna be a problem? That's gonna be a problem for anybody? No. We're good? You may not? Okay, so John, when we get to voting members for that case, please avoid putting Susan on, because she may or may not be here, so if we can avoid putting her on.
I will.
Alright, thanks.
Do you want me to sign now?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Well, we gotta open the public hearing first.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, yeah. So we're opening the public hearing for the Mark Mason 2098 Winthrop Street, map 1, lot 57, special permit application. I'm just going to read the posting as it was in the Taunton Gazette, and just note that there was a typo on the legal notice. The date does say Tuesday, October 24, 2023. Obviously, the date is the 24th. We are not also meeting on the 27th. It is just that meant to be deleted. Notice is hereby given that the Dayton Zoning Board of Appeals will conduct a public hearing at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Ave, Dayton, Mass. on Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. The special permit application of Mark Mason for property located at 2098 Winthrop Street, being shown as Assessor's Map 1, Lot 57, pursuant to Sections 2230, Use Regulation Schedule of the Town of Dayton zoning bylaw, in order to construct two-family structure for residential purposes in a business district. And then there's a note saying that if anyone has any person is interested or wishing to be heard on this matter should attend this hearing. Copies of the application are available in the Zoning Board of Appeals office, the Dayton Zoning Board of Appeals website, or upon request can be viewed by email or by calling 508-669-6431 extension 114 or emailing Kerry Easterday. So John, and now if you want to sign for board members, please.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Sure.
I don't know if we can hear this, if this has got the 24th and 27th with the abutters, if there's some abutters thinking it's gonna come on the 27th.
I think they've all been, you said
They've been notified by the 24th,
you
and
said they've already reached out, right?
Oh, notified by what?
so this was in the Gazette,
24th?
That one was not in the Gazette. That was the legal one that was
Went out to the
posted up at
abutters.
Town Hall and to the abutters.
But it says the 27th as well.
Correct, and I did get a couple phone calls today.
I just think that if, you know, if there is some abutters that ain't able to meet tonight's meetings thinking they got the 27th, it could be an issue.
I mean, we do have a few here. Did any of you guys know of anybody that thought the meeting was gonna be on the Friday?
I asked someone last week about that, that's what brought to my attention.
And did that person know now that that's not the case?
I was thinking I was gonna be here on Friday night as well, I thought it was a two-part meeting, to be honest with you.
I'm not trying to stir up any stuff, but I think that could be a problem.
So what we could do is open the public hearing
Yeah.
and start the process. I don't know if you guys are gonna plan on rendering a decision tonight.
Sure.
And then make the continuance, and then I can make another mailing, or try and call them.
I'm just nervous that
a lot.
people
No,
not everybody
I-
will be here.
I mean, we should.
What's
I mean,
that?
There's nothing wrong with opening it.
Right.
Because, I mean, like, what if we were gonna meet that day and we canceled for another reason? Like, we're still, like, the notice does say we're meeting today.
So this didn't go in the Gazette, this went to each, this was certified?
That was
mail?
yes. And then the legal notice in the paper just had the
So,
24th.
right, it wasn't like it was the wrong date, it was just a second, like,
Yeah.
if today wasn't listed at all, and just the 27th
Just the
was,
27th, then we wouldn't be able to do
That would've been
it.
an issue if you wouldn't have known, but they noticed over the
But
first
the-
day at least, the first one.
But
Correct.
the other implication could be, people who don't know how the zoning process works could be under the assumption that there's two dates for the meeting.
That's all I'm saying, I mean,
Yeah.
I just wanna bring it up.
Yeah, I think we're fine to open it, and then when Marguerite comes on, if we
We
hear
can ask
time
her.
in before she's needed for that case, we can just ask her that.
We can certainly do that.
Okay. All right,
So
Johnson.
the three members that I will assign will be Zachary,
Yep.
Greg, and Elise.
Okay, so we know we do have a fair amount of abutters here today, so just so you guys know, the applicant will present their case, and then we, as a board, will ask questions, and then we will turn it over to the abutters if they have questions for us or the applicant. Everyone will have a chance to be heard if they want to. We just ask that when that time comes, to come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. And in terms of seeing the plans, if you guys haven't seen them already, I'm not sure if you brought any bigger ones, but you are more than welcome to come up and take a look at them. But they will also be online in PDF versions for you to look at meeting. I mean, they're there now if you want to come up on your phone too, but. So whenever you are ready, sir, come on up.
Evening, John D'Souza from North County Group. We were here approximately a month ago. We came in for a pre-meeting with you folks, just to let you know that we were looking to come in front of you to raise the existing house that is approximately within 8 feet of Winthrop Street, the property line, and about 14 feet from the eastern property line. The house that's currently there is sits about on an 8-foot hill from the roadway. It's got some steep stairs in the front that go down to the street line, and then there's a small little garage over to the left-hand portion of it. We are looking to remove the whole house entirely. We're gonna remove the garage that's currently out there as well, and we're looking to do a duplex that meets all the zoning criteria, all the setbacks are met. It's basically sitting in the front portion of the allowed zoning area for the lot. The setback from the road is approximately 85 feet from the street line. Once you add the asphalt, it'll end up being approximately 92 to 93 feet from the edge of the asphalt that's out there. So it's gonna go towards the backside where the hill crests and starts to go down on the back hill the side. It's gonna be in the wooded area of the lot that's out there. So as far as the visibility from the street, it's gonna be not too visible, except for the driveways going in, as we're gonna regrade that area. So we end up with about a 4% grade going up and cresting over and into where the house is gonna go on the backside. The septic system is gonna be all brand new for the new structure, though it will be serviced by water coming off of the main that's out there on Winthrop Street. We're not looking for any variances on any other portion of the premises. We meet all requirements on, as far as that. Wetlands, there really aren't any wetlands on the site. If they are, they're well off of the back rear line anyway. We went out there, we surveyed, it's pretty wooded in the backside. The woods are basically gonna be maintained as much as possible throughout the lot. This is within 3/4 of a mile of the corporate boundary line to the city of Taunton. We believe that the duplex fits into the neighborhood. As soon as you cross over into the Taunton area, you're gonna get into multi-residential homes right in through there. There's a big condominium complex just up on the left-hand side. I believe it's Indian Ridge or something like that it's called, right up in there. There's the gas station that's almost across the street from this side, and I believe the board has previously approved a duplex on that portion of the roadway in the past few years as well. Each side is gonna have a 2-car garage underneath on the front side, and then it's gonna have extra parking spaces. As you can see on the plan, they are to turn out in the front. So there should be no parking on the roadway for any use or whatever. If they need more parking spaces, there's plenty of room to add a few more spots as well. These are all gonna be at least a 3 to 4 bedroom townhouse on each the side. We have the room to accommodate almost any type of structure that is required for each of the family. The decks are gonna be off of the backside. The visibility to the neighbors, like I said, there's gonna be basically in the wooded area. We're gonna keep as much of the woods as possible, so the visibility should be minimal at best. But if required, we can add some more plantings, maybe some evergreens in there as well, just to mix it up and add for screening. So if the board has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I have a couple. So you said 4% change, so what exactly would the height difference be? Like how much higher exactly? It's like, so for the residents to get a better idea, how many feet taller will it be?
Then the house that's out there?
Yeah.
The ridge of this roof is gonna match basically the ridge of the other roof that's out there because it crests up and over.
Okay.
So once we get past the hill on the downhill side, this is on the downhill side of that, so the roof line is gonna be basically where the roof line of the house that's out there right now.
Okay. And my second question was obviously, I mean, I know the property well, not from being on it, but driving by it so often. Obviously, the dwelling that's there now, it needs to be raised. I mean, you can't do anything with it.
Yeah, no.
But why two-family and why not just a house, a single-family house?
They're just in the market going through, and right now, in order to make what they need to on their end, a two-family is what works for their end of things right now. So that's why they're requesting the two-family instead of the single-family. As where with the single-family, with the raising of the house that's out there, plus the building further back and everything, it adds an added expense for the driveway, the water line, and whatnot. It makes it almost financially infeasible at that point.
And my last question before I turn it over to other voting members, where is the current garage on this?
The garage is basically almost where the first driveway is going
okay.
in, on the backside of the house that's out there.
Okay.
So it's basically in that lower flat spot, if you will.
Okay. So we'll go to Elise first. Do you have any questions?
Not right now.
Greg?
Yes, sir.
The board?
Okay, so you made a perfect example. We're 3/4 of a mile from the city of Taunton with all the other duplexes and stuff. That's exactly what Dayton doesn't want. All right, I'm not saying, in my opinion, you're telling me it's not feasible financially. Is that what you stated to us earlier? You can't do this as a single-family home because financially it's not feasible to build it on this piece of property?
Yeah, well, our finances come into play at that point, yes.
So, I don't understand what the hardship is. You know, the one that you're talking about in that other development across the street, that was the Lopes project, correct?
I forget who it was.
So, they came in front of us, and that
Yes.
was to be a single-owned two-family.
I believe so.
You're asking for two separate owners on two separate pieces on one single piece of property, as like what you see in the city of Taunton flooding it. I just don't think, you said it meets the criteria. Yeah, 3/4 of an acre down, the people in the city of Taunton are okay with it. The people in Dayton, Massachusetts, not so much. I don't see the hardship here. I don't. Do you own the property at this moment in time?
They are looking to close on the property, I believe, around the end of the month.
So you haven't purchased this yet?
It's well into the process of closing. All the closing documents are actually being executed
I wouldn't have
already.
a problem with this, to be straight, if this was a one-owner place and the side was a rental. But being
side
two
is a
separate
rental.
owners, now let's, perfect example, the neighbors, oh, I need a roof on my house, can't do the roof on the other guy's house. I mean, I see how you split, dividing it, so you have two separate roof lines, am I correct?
Well, the roof lines are actually
One's
kind
higher
of,
than the other.
no, they're almost the same height, but what happens is, this would go into a homeowners association, an HOA. So all the exterior is paid for by the HOA. So that means that you have the two parties that contribute into the fund, and all exterior repairs and maintenance is maintained by the HOA. So the only thing that you're responsible for on your own is all interior stuff.
So it's gonna be an HOA,
This will have an HOA on it, yes, that maintains the exterior, the driveways, the plowing, the grass cutting, everything. On the outside is all maintained under the
between
HOA,
two people, an HOA.
yes.
And Greg, just a point of information, so if it being a special permit, I know we don't often hear them compared to variance, he doesn't have to prove hardship.
Yeah, I know he doesn't have to prove hardship, but he has to prove to me that this particular thing, okay, is something that the town of Dayton wants.
That aspect, yeah.
Yeah,
but-
and I'm just saying, for
but-
me, I don't
yeah.
see it here.
Yeah, I just don't want him to
This
think
piece
that
of property,
he's- prove a
definitely,
hardship.
house needs to go, new house needs to go
Yeah.
on it. If you had come in front of us and said, I'm gonna sell this as one, and the one person that buys it to the side of me is gonna rent it, I'm fine with something like that. But being two separate entities, we've done this in the 40B, right? Across the street, Stonegate Landing,
Yeah.
40B. You have one, right now, a duplex. That particular one that he's talking about, I believe that was the Lopes development, and when we did that particular one, all the people in that development were kind of against it.
down the street.
And the way it was gonna be worded is, all right, if we do it, it's gonna be a one owner, rented apartment on, a rented unit on the
Correct.
side.
I don't know, I'm not sure why it fell through. It fell through on their end.
Yeah, they just never,
afterwards, but
I just think they didn't.
It was approved,
It's
right?
not feasible to do what I'm trying to say. So you're trying to tell me you haven't purchased this piece of land yet, and you want to put a duplex on it, which in the bylaw says we don't do in the town of Dayton.
Can I ask you,
So I'm not opposed to what you're trying to do to your land. I'm just saying if this was a single owner,
Right, and actually, so you understand, when this goes on the market, there's nothing that prevents a single owner from buying this, because
but
my
it still
niece,
could go the other way.
my niece actually ended up buying a duplex
Right.
and owns the two sides, and she actually maintains the other side, even though there's an HOA.
You go into the city of Taunton right up here on 138, the major
Right.
gas station, Dewey's gas station. There's a duplex on top of a duplex, on top of a duplex, on top of a duplex, across the street a duplex. It's not what Dayton's looking for. That's my
Right.
opinion.
Can I just ask you, if this is if there's gonna be, you just made the comment that when they're sold, why can't the developer sell it to one owner as opposed to an HOA? Why does it have to be sold as two separate units?
Oh, no, if it goes to two entities, then it would go to an HOA. But if it goes to one entity, there's no HOA at that point.
So one entity could buy, I can
Well,
buy both units if I want to, is what you're
Absolutely,
telling me.
yeah, because if one entity purchases the two units, there's no HOA at that point.
So, for the build, what you're saying is that because of everything being done, the profitability is based on selling it, whoever buys it, whether it's one or two people, as two units as opposed to one.
Right, so if one person comes in and says, I want the two units, but I want to pay this price instead of that price, my client would be more than willing to look at it and say, okay, you want to buy the two units? The numbers work, we have no problem with
Sure,
that. Absolutely, it happens all the time, especially right now in this market, the way it is, the real estate market and the rental market, the way it's going. A lot of people are buying multifamily residences. As they keep one side, they rent the other side, and it pays half the mortgage or more. So it's out there. It happens all over the place. I had another client that just sold a triplex to one person, and they're gonna rent the other two units, and they're basically gonna live rent-free because of the rental they're coming. So the HOA for that is no longer there. It's no
Let me ask
longer
you,
existing.
let me ask you then, because this is part of the conversation we had with you briefly last month, just in general terms. Last month, you said that they were getting ready for the closing, and you thought the closing would be happening before the end of October.
Yes.
So if this is going to be continued, potentially, because of the confusion with potential dates,
Yep.
we may not have an answer for you tonight, which means if we go until the end of November, what's gonna happen to your closings?
The closing will already happen. It's already in the process of
So
being
what we-
scheduled. The
so I
closing
guess what I'm
attorneys
asking is
have
what
the
we-
dates and everything.
Is this business
What we do isn't contingent upon the closing.
No, not at all. The closing is going to happen. We just received an email the other day from the closing attorney as to when they're going to close. And this is going to close in, I believe, in about 2, maybe 3 weeks max. So no matter what, it's already slated to close.
Okay, so,
See
Sue
right there.
or Dave, do you have any questions before we turn it over to the butters? All right, so if any butters have any questions, obviously you don't have to ask any questions, but if you do have any questions, just make sure you come up and just state your name and address for the record.
Joe Mariano, I'm 2190.
Oh, yeah, sorry, we do need you to come to the podium, just so we can get on the audio, that's why.
Bill Mariano, 2197 Chestnut. I also own property on Winthrop Street. I used to own the property right behind this. I wanna know, did you perk this property yet?
Not yet,
It's all ledge.
well, we know there's ledge out there.
Okay, I just put a well in last year, I paid a lot of money for, that's not very far from where he's planning on putting his septic system. And that ledge will allow that affluent to run right down towards my well.
Did he actually say where the septic system's gonna go?
I know the property very well,
I know, I just
because
didn't
I
think
own
he
the
said it.
5.5 acres behind it.
Yeah.
And, that I sold to Lopes. I know that property because I surveyed that property for the owner years ago, and the neighboring properties, the Hawkshire and so forth. So I know that whole area very, very well. I've dug test holes. My family put the system in down the street and so forth. So that whole area there, I can't see it passing a legitimate perk, number one. And as far as putting the septic system in over ledge, that's that close, that affluent's gonna run that way, because that ledge goes off like this, and
Yeah,
I'm
he
on the
had stated
downside
that
of
the
it.
topography leaning
Yeah.
back, yeah.
So, that's one. And when you're talking about maybe one owner, maybe two owners, maybe three owners, that tree can fall anyway. and more than likely, it's not gonna fall the right way. Thank you.
Thank you.
So your biggest concern was just if the septic
The septic?
would be to run off into your well?
Absolutely. That's a major concern, and that's
Okay.
a very likely one.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else? Sure.
Good evening.
How you doing?
My name is Carol Hofshire, 2082 Winthrop Street. I'm the abutter right beside it. And my concern is blasting or drilling on that land, because we all know it's all put in stone. And I'm concerned with my house being, having damage in it. And who would be responsible if that happened?
You think if at that point it would be the applicant, as far as it wouldn't be.
It's a touchy situation.
I mean, it's not anything that we'd be able to speak to on
We
the
couldn't-
liability,
we-
but I
yeah,
mean.
we can't go on that one,
Because even to do with the septic system or the foundation, they are gonna have to blast.
yeah.
I've been
You're not
through-
doing slabs, you're doing a foundation.
No, actually, it's a slab on grade.
Slab on grade home?
Because I've gone through this years ago with some property on Chestnut Street that Lopes did.
Yeah.
And they had a blasting company come in, and I had damage, and Lopes had to pay for it because the blasting company wouldn't.
Have you approached the developer yet and had any conversation with the
No, I
potential
haven't.
developer about what they're willing to?
No,
I mean, if that is a concern of yours and this is approved, that's what I would do, only because as the zoning board or even any other board of the town would have no ruling in, who would pay for that.
and also I would like to see a one dwelling, not two.
One drive or one?
One
dwelling.
dwelling.
One dwelling.
Yep.
So are you opposed or for the development?
I'm opposed for the two. One.
Opposed for the two.
Yeah.
Mr. Mariano, are you opposed or for?
I'm opposed.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
And incidentally,
Sure.
I spoke to another person who wanted to be here, but is coming tomorrow night.
Coming tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
27th?
I'm sorry, Friday.
Right.
Let him know there's not a Friday meeting, by the way, please.
Yeah, could you just let him know there is no meeting?
I will.
Margaret hasn't chimed in yet, right?
No, I sent her an email, but I haven't heard back.
About that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
She's probably, I don't know if she's coming home, on her way home or something, but
Or she might address it when she comes on.
I don't think so.
Were you finished, or were you just letting us know there's somebody?
Yeah, I'm done, thank you.
I mean, we're definitely not going to close the public hearing. I mean, even if, hypothetically, even if we felt like we were ready to close the public hearing and deliberate, which I'm not saying we are or not, but either way, we're not going to close the public hearing with people not aware that today was the only day for this case. So,
And this was definitely sent to the abutters, this particular one.
this
Yes.
particular copy, the exact copy that you're looking at right now, yes, it was.
Alright. Is there anyone else?
Was there anybody else here for the public that wants to?
Matt Thibodeau, 2229 Chestnut Street. I also own property on 44, and I own the property right to the side of that property there. I just don't see how that's buildable for that at all without blasting. Not to mention it, I don't think Titan should start looking like two families like that. And if you're gonna do that, are we gonna allow, it's like a condo almost, they don't allow condos in Dayton.
Yeah.
I mean, hypothetically, I mean, they would have to apply for a special permit. It's not like, for example, like neon signs
Yeah.
are not allowed regardless. A lot of people think, oh, we don't allow two families. We don't allow them as a right. You have to apply for a permit, which you may or may not get.
Yeah.
So, it's, it's one of those things where people say, well, we don't allow, well, we do through a permit only, not just by right. As opposed to something like, a neon sign, which is like, no, you just can't have one. There's no permit for that. We just don't allow that. But no, that's why,
It just seems like that's not a feasible position to put that at all. I'm familiar with the area, obviously, owning the land next door.
yeah.
Are you opposed or for?
I'm opposed to that. I own enough land on 44, I'm pretty familiar with the whole road
Okay.
on that one. You might, if you're gonna do go forwards as a two-family, you should word it where it can only be deeded under one deed. So one owner only for both properties. That would get some of that concern out of it.
The concern being, oh,
Marguerite.
Chimed in. Well, that's some of the concerns somebody brought up about that.
Okay.
But again, a single family would make more sense just put back there. Also, the number of bedrooms, would you say 3 to 4 bedrooms per unit?
3 on each.
3 on each? Might wanna put some stipulations, limitation on that down to 2, and no bonus rooms. That's just adding a lot more hardship overall on the whole thing. Not to mention you stop putting a septic system in for a two-family like that with 6 bedrooms. That's gonna be a large septic system.
Dayton, the septic systems go by rooms now, not just bedrooms, so every room, and then it's 10%. So, it's gonna be a big system.
That's gonna be a really big system. How big's that lot?
so it changed.
The lot
Acre
is,
and a quarter?
considered,
3,000, I think.
acre and almost acre and a half.
Almost, yeah.
That's a big septic system on there, with no room to go with the ledge.
Well, the whole site is not ledge, up in the front. It doesn't have all ledge up in the front. So,
Have you been in that house?
yeah,
Have you been in the cellar of that house?
yes,
You see what the foundation is built on?
yes.
You see what the cellar stairs are built on?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and it's all ledge.
Well,
Thank you.
not all of it's ledge, but that's okay.
Anything
Oh,
else?
there's enough ledge in there. I remember when Rita was alive, when I was a little kid, I used to go over there and mow the lawn, so I know the deal. That's why I said I'm familiar with the property. I couldn't tell you what's on your street, but I can tell you what's on other streets.
Oh, well, that's okay. I grew up right near the area, so
Do you have any more questions?
I'm pretty familiar.
So this is where you're gonna set them? It doesn't look like it's going as far back as you're making it out to be, though.
It's
That's the existing
less
house.
than 2 feet off of the street, off of the asphalt. And it's a slab on grade, and we're gonna raise it up, so we're not gonna be blasted.
So
How much higher than the existing elevation you get that slab?
It's about 18 inches.
18 inches above grade, and that lot does go uphill quite a bit.
It goes up and then it goes right back down. Yeah.
So, but you stated that these houses are on the other side of the crest,
They're just over the crest.
which
the
he's
back.
stating is gonna be an issue for his septic system.
Which, right.
Well,
Oh, around.
Am I correct on this?
we're doing the septic in the front of the house, not on the back side of the house. So the system is up front near Winthrop Street.
Excuse me. That house, that land goes all uphill.
It's her property.
I live right beside it.
Doesn't crest?
I thought it went up.
No, we're gonna have a crest over.
From the house,
So-
you go down to the driveway, but the house is all uphill.
The house that's out there is up on the hill.
Right, the whole
On-
hill.
Yeah,
On the
behind the
back
house,
side,
it-
it crests down.
Backside.
The driveway that's
That's
there,
all.
the driveway that's there with the garage
I
is
don't know
actually
behind
about,
that house.
6 feet lower than what the house is at right now.
It's all uphill.
It actually slopes down towards the left side, going in that area. We already have all the, topo in that whole area.
Single
That's it?
Dodge.
We don't have the proposed yet, but we have all the, soil map and all that done.
The original.
But you heard him say there's ledge in there.
Any more
This-
questions?
This map he has here, this lot shape doesn't look right for Dayton. There's no rectangular lots in Dayton like that.
If you read the deed, that's what they own.
I mean, feel free to look at the assessor's map, I guess, but
Yeah.
Cause the lot next to me is a pie shape, the lot behind it's a really weird shaped lot.
Yep, and there's quite a few others that are very weird shaped on the backside of that as well.
Carol Hofshire's land, do you go behind this house too?
I go behind that property.
On that property?
oh, okay.
And then you go to her?
I see. Yeah.
Adjacent to her, but I'm still all downhill
Okay,
on that ledge.
okay,
He's not. You can't see his house.
I used to own the ledge behind it,
okay.
which was much higher. And,
Okay.
I sold it, but I know the property.
Do you have any more questions?
No, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Marguerite. You're mute. We had a quick question. Did you get Kerry's email?
I did, I just saw it right before I signed on.
So there are a couple residents who were thinking that it was two different meeting dates for the same thing, so who are not here tonight and are thinking that they're coming on the 27th. We've already said that that's not the case. What would we do order-wise in this case? So would we just, I mean, we've already stated that that was a typo and there is no meeting on the 27th.
Right, but you believe there's actually people who are planning on attending on the 27th?
It sounds like there were two, at least two that we know of, or through the other
Mentioned
residents.
through the abutters.
Carrie did get some phone calls, which she obviously clarified for them, but apparently there's two people that we heard of from these residents saying, oh yeah, I had someone ask me about that too.
Okay, I mean, if that's the case and it's unclear to the public, then unfortunately, I think you need to, re-notice the public hearing and start from scratch. I don't think it's something that the petitioner, you may want to talk to them about fees, but if the public's not clear as to what the intention and the notification called for, then you're not providing them with a true public hearing.
Even though the 24th is listed?
Well, it says Tuesday, 24th, but if you have people who still thought that if perhaps it was going to be on the 27th, then they're confused and the best recourse in that case would be to start over and re-present the information that you have been presented with tonight.
Okay. But you said something about fees. You have to reapply?
I don't know that you would require a reapplication as
Oh.
much as you would want them to file, like you'd need to send out new abutters lists and you'd need to republish.
I mean, personally, I wouldn't ask the applicant to pay for that. I mean, it wasn't their fault. It was, an honest clerical mistake. But I mean, I wouldn't expect, or even it didn't even occur to me to ask the applicant to do that. But if that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do.
No, my point is that I know you've waived fees in the
Oh, I
past
see.
when you've had situations where you've needed either a refiling or starting over or some sort of redo. And in this case, I would agree with you. It's not the applicant's fault. It was a clerical error. It's certainly, was unintentional. But if it created confusion to the public, then it needs to be corrected by starting over. And if the board is inclined to waive fees, because obviously that would require a refiling,
Right.
then this would be a very good opportunity to do that.
Okay. Would that need a motion on the voting members to waive the fees or no? Would that just be I as chairman just state that we're not going to?
Yeah, so I think that you have the ability as chairman to waive fees in this situation or not require, just apply the other fees that have already been received. You really shouldn't be making any motions that are binding in this case anyways, because that's the whole point. You're starting over.
Okay, so would there be a motion to just to strike what was heard before, or because obviously we would technically motion to continue because it wouldn't be continued, it'd be a new case, or would it be withdraw without prejudice? How would you advise we do that?
So I would just, I would talk to the applicant and get their agreement that they would agree to continue and start afresh with a new public hearing along with new posting and new notification to the abutters at whatever the future date is, your next meeting date.
So it would be a motion to continue?
It is in a sense, because you need the applicant to agree to this, of course, because obviously if the applicant doesn't agree to that, then you would have to act on what you have before you today, but the applicant's running the risk that there is a open meeting law violation claim filed, and that would be undone as a result of that. So you would, for purposes of tonight, continue it, but then you would start all over in November and you would start afresh, and you would make a motion that any motions that were made at the previous meeting are not to be considered. For purposes of tonight's public hearing, you're starting all over.
Which we haven't made any motions yet, and as for voting members, we intentionally did not put Sue on because she was the only one that we knew maybe won't be here for the next meeting, so.
Okay, but you did make motions to open the case. So you've made some motions.
And that one, yes, but not anything else, no.
Yeah, so, you know, you would clear it up at the next meeting by starting over.
Okay,
And you would reflect at the next meeting that you have undone whatever motions were made, they are not to be considered, and that you're starting over tonight. And everything has been properly published, and the abutter notifications have been properly sent, and there's no clerical errors. And you start over hearing the case from the beginning.
so now if there were things that, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, if there are things on these plans that are not there that I would have wanted to see, could I ask them to do that for the new plans, or like how would I do, like, or would I just pretend that I never even saw these?
So it's up to the abutter, the petitioner can certainly provide more information to the board.
But it's okay if I ask them that?
You can ask him that, but there's nothing binding on him. I mean, you can explain that to him, but again, it's up to the petitioner. You are going to hear the case brand new from beginning next week, or next month. And I, you know, if for some reason you think that whatever you're asking him to put on is deliberative in nature, then I would say, I would wait.
Okay, I mean, it was only just the fact that it had been discussed tonight that the septic tank position is not on the plans, and I was going to ask that we get updated plans with that on there, because it was a very talked about discussion with the abutters.
Yeah, so what I would just simply, I guess what I would say is rather than require it, just indicate that if that's not received, it's something that you'll be looking for as part of the application in this matter. Similar to how you would talk to someone who's coming in just for sort of general feedback from the board without an actual presentation.
Right, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so we have 3 abutters that have come here tonight and stated what their concerns would, do they have to come to the next meeting, or can we take what their concerns was from this meeting to the next meeting? It's just the abutters.
Did you hear that one?
Yeah, unfortunately, you'd have to start over.
So it's almost like a combination of continuing, but also withdrawing without prejudice. We're pretending we never heard it.
It could go as withdraw without prejudice, it's just that I think, you know, I doubt that that's the new route you need to take here.
That would require a closed application and everything, which we don't need.
Right. You have the application, you have the paperwork, if they want to submit something more, they can. If the abutters would like to, you know, get a copy of the recording and make a written statement of their list of concerns rather than appearing based on the recording of this meeting, and submit that for the next meeting, that's certainly an option that they can pursue.
Okay.
They can come to the meeting, or if the meeting's going to be, you know, a hybrid meeting, they certainly can attend virtually as well.
Right, okay.
But it has to start over if there is confusion to the public, and it sounds like there is.
Okay. Assuming you've obviously caught all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we obviously would not charge you for us having to send out the new notices. That wasn't anything
Yep.
that, you know, you guys did.
My extreme apologies. I'm very sorry.
So, for those of you in the public, did you guys catch all that, what you were saying about making your comments known? So if I had a feeling you probably would have ended up coming to the next meeting anyway, but if you, for some reason you can't or don't want to, and you can, but you do want your comments to be heard, you would either need to come and say them, or you can email them to Carrie, and we'll just read them as part of the record on that meeting day. Whatever makes it easier for you if you don't want to come back again.
I can write a letter and drop it off to her.
You can write a letter, however you want to do it, yeah. I would just prefer not a phone call, because then she would have to transcribe what you're saying. So long as it's some form of written communication, however you want to do it, that's fine, yep. All right.
And just to remind you, the date for the next meeting is the 28th of November.
Right, Tuesday after Thanksgiving.
Yes. It's a long, what, 5 weeks?
Yeah, it's 5 weeks in this year.
That's pretty
Okay, so, that being said, being a voting member, I will make a motion that we continue this case to our next meeting, so we can, send out new notices. And again, as chair, I'm saying that we're not going to be charging him for the fees for the refile, for the re-mailing.
No, not that he has to, but can he at least, you're gonna ask him about whether.
Oh, right, sure. Is that something that you could possibly do?
Just-
Yeah,
Indicate
so-
indicate where the
Yep.
septic would be?
Yeah, so what we'll end up doing is we'll end up switching the two entrances into one.
Okay.
And then, we'll also, show where the field is gonna go and the tanks and all that.
Sure,
So
yeah,
that
I mean-
on the plan as well.
That's really up to you. For me, the biggest, I mean, at first I was gonna say the garage, the current garage too, but that really doesn't matter. If it was gonna be factored into these new plans, then yes, I would wanna know. And originally, the septic wasn't even a concern of mine that it wasn't on these plans, but because we had the abutters asking about it, then I would think it probably would be beneficial.
I know we're not talking about it, but I don't know if the fire department allows single driveway.
We did have some correspondence actually, but I mean, it was not, even
Not
with
from
reading
the
it, it's
fire
not.
chief, only from the
anything from
building
the fire.
inspector,
Well,
only
let's
the
put
building
something on-
inspector. That might be an issue.
Yeah, I mean, if it's one or two,
I believe he's gonna want
He
two,
was CC'd on something, it wasn't
just
his
look
comment.
into that.
Okay, so I made the motion, is there a second? Yeah, I would have to be one of the voting members on this case. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye,
Okay, so we are continuing this. That's been continued, so we're moving on to
grab my book.
our next agenda item.
See,
Which is review, discuss, and act, Stonegate Landing LLC, westerly side of Somerset Ave, map 9, status update of phase 1. And just for the record, before we even go into anything, if it's a matter that has to do with the HOA, we're not hearing it. As discussed at our last meeting, and if you guys, I'm not sure who in this room has talked to Veronica, if any of you have, but, and Marguerite, our legal counsel, is here right now. Under the HOA, we're not saying it's not an issue, we're saying it's not an issue that the zoning board has any control over. We can't, but things like the playground or the streets, or things that are part of the comprehensive permit, that is our job, is to hold them to those things. So again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying the HOA is not a concern, it's just not anything that we can't keep listening to the issue with that. There are other avenues in which you guys can take and certainly should do, but it just can't be anything that the zoning board can play a part in, just so you guys know. So Richard, if you want to present, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Am I on?
Yep.
Okay. Because I was here last month, at the time I let you know I was putting together a email list of all the homeowners, and I've got all but 2 right now. And my idea was to try to arrange a meeting or announce a meeting, but I had some who just thought there was no homeowners association.
We're not hearing,
No, you don't want to talk about
I
it.
don't want to hear the word homeowners association again tonight.
yeah,
I don't want to hear, if it has to say homeowners associate, we're not going to hear it.
Right. Well, the good news is that having gotten to the neighborhood a little bit more, and just discussion with neighbors, I got an email a couple of weeks ago from Andrea Sheedy, who happens to be here, and it was copied with 4 other homeowners who requested some information from me about the homeowners.
We're not hearing about the homeowners association. I don't know how much more clear I can be. I don't want to hear about the homeowners association. I don't. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. I'm glad that things are being resolved. I don't want to hear about it. We cannot hear about it.
Then we're good.
That's the only thing you have? You didn't have anything else?
As far as, we know we're waiting on the new engineer to get
Yes.
appointed by the town.
Yes, we have, yeah.
That hasn't happened yet. I haven't heard from anybody. I was out fixing some potholes today, and
Sorry. I do know some emails went back and forth earlier this afternoon regarding, or maybe I saw the original emails, but regarding the peer review.
So to get the peer review out, I sent the first one the preliminary one that was done, I wanted to make sure the entire scope was in there before we retain this new engineer.
Yeah, I saw your email, I just haven't had a chance to look at it because I just got it today, so I'll try to look at it tonight and compare it to, what I understood to be the scope of the work based on conversations the board has had and requested previously. And then it sounds like that will be sent over to Mr. Federoff.
To the engineer,
Okay.
right? The scope, so.
The new peer review that we have, yes.
The new peer,
Yeah.
so we have a new peer review engineer, and before I inundate him with all the information, I want to be very clear on what's being requested, so that he can just dive into it.
Yep, I'll look at it tonight and I'll be able to give you some feedback on it, so you can start working on it the rest of this week.
Yep.
So that's why we haven't seen anything yet that's why you hadn't heard anything yet from the new peer review, because we were waiting to get the original scope of work from them to give to the new peer review to have them compare it.
So whatever it's available, I'm ready to go.
Okay,
Okay, I want to get it done.
so we can send that to him whenever our look at it. With anything
Yeah,
specific
so
else?
we were worried, there was another correspondent that came in an email in regards to the speed bumps.
It's a while ago, right?
But I saw it I could have swore,
Did you see it recently?
maybe it was the last meeting. But one of the departments, whether it was the fire or police, had a comment.
Yeah, there was a question as to whether the speed
remember.
bumps were necessary
Yeah,
and why they were there.
that's one.
That was last
One that
Those
wanted to know
speed bumps.
who approved them.
Yeah, well, we're gonna ask them about that. And then the state cut road,
Oh, the curb cut, you mean?
yeah. And then there was the playground.
Which
Which-
John has told me that's all set.
Okay, we're
Playground
good to
is-
go?
Yep.
Awesome, we got one off our list.
So, what specifically was it, did you want to know from him about the curb cut?
Well, he said he was waiting for the state. The state said something with the cut on the street about the boulders in the side, that's the neighbor's property. Where are we at with the state cut? What'd we come out of that?
There's a couple, yeah, we all know that that's a 10 and a one-way in. It can't be made two-way, there's
Right.
not enough room, okay?
Right.
It's, to make that intersect better, I've had no luck connecting with the owner there. I've
Okay.
been there knocking the door. And, but those two big boulders are in the state highway. I don't think you need his permission to move them.
But weren't you reaching out with someone at the state yard over on Route 140 in Taunton in regards to about how this curb cut was done?
Yes, I have, and, let me back up a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
A couple meetings ago, the curb cut was applied for and issued back in 2002 or 4, all right? And it was good for 7 or 8 years, and it was, was not inspected for some reason. I never was part of that, okay?
That
But the biggest-
was before you took over the project?
That was well before I
Okay.
got there, okay? But in looking at the big problem is the radius, okay? Especially the new radiuses, even back in '02, to make that a one-way in, you had to have the length of the radius, okay, would have, looking at the entrance, the property to the right where the rocks are.
Yep.
That radius would have to go all the way in front of his property. And then he'd have to have a curb cut, okay? And so when we discovered that we had the problem again, revised by DP, but not, yeah, DP, District 5,
Yep.
that to continue with the application, we had to get that homeowner sign off saying he's okay with us putting a vertical core.
But doesn't the state own the eminent domain 5 feet from the edge of the road into someone's yard?
I believe so.
I'm pretty sure
As
I
far as
might-
I've always known it to be.
So I know those boulders are on state road. I've looked at it myself. One of them is definitely into the state.
Yeah, and if the second one is 60% on it.
Right,
okay, it's
so-
right there.
What
I-
I'm
my
trying to get
idea,
at
they
though
could
is
go
I'm
down
not
and
trying to
pick 'em
make it
up.
a 2-lane highway. I'm just trying to make sure that you try to pull in there, it's so narrow. It's like a driveway at the street.
It's 18 feet, yeah. That's why it was always a one-way.
So what I'm just trying to get at is I don't understand why the state says you need to get with the homeowner. If the state owns the road and owns that easement, the homeowner is on it, it should
I'll
be
bring
something
it in,
somebody
it
else.
said it was my responsibility.
But it's your responsibility to make that a safe haven to enter.
Even if one of the boulders can only go for now, then take out one of them. At least get that started, right?
Well, I don't know I don't know how to go about this because,
But if we know one of the boulders is not on his property, right? Are you sure of that?
well, the first one is definitely right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second one, that's questionable, but that first one, you know, but even that being said, so now they're gonna end up taking where that boulder is as eminent domain for the state because it's 5 feet to make the radius.
Especially the safety concern.
Well, that's,
Which
there we
there
go,
is.
there's the word, safety, right there.
Now, Tisca 5 told my engineer that if that was a two-way, then they definitely want the radius.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
If it's a one-way in, the rules will change.
Did they give you any size that they require?
No, they want my engineer to submit a plan.
And is that something that we haven't done on that with our engineer?
The,
That road area, or that wasn't what we were looking at, right? It was actually the top coat.
I don't remember that being looked at, but I think that Richard, do you have an engineer that you have working on this?
You have an engineer working on this right now?
I do, yeah. Silver Engineering, who works for me in the neighborhood, they filed the app, I went there, got the application, got it in, they've been talking back to them, and then we had a few meetings, okay, about should we eliminate it, make it two-way, bring it right in? And then they got back to Silver and said, you know, if you're gonna do this big radius, okay,
Yeah.
so, you're gonna have to get the person's property you're blocking to agree to it. And then, we talked, and, Silver said that if it's just a one-way, like for emergency vehicle, one-way cars coming in, then you don't need those huge radiuses. Okay, then they could work with us on that.
But that's the size of a driveway.
That's what
That's
we're
just-
saying.
Oh, no, we've got room to make it bigger,
Oh, that's what I'm
but the
getting at.
radius is like 40 feet long.
Well, yeah, on a state corner on the road, my parents lived on 138, and we had to put a stone in the middle of our thing, in the middle of a driveway, because we had 40 feet at the street, like the radius you're supposed to, like you're talking about.
Right.
And cars would pull in and would hit the garage. So we had to put a stone out there so it knew it was a
Right.
private drive.
Yeah.
You can't confuse that, you think that's a driveway.
It's 18 feet, that's what it was
It's-
supposed
it's
to be.
now or nothing.
You know, back in
It
2004.
could be a long drive if you don't know the area and don't know the
Sure.
house. I
And I
can
knew
see
there was
with
a
the width of it, it could
situation
be.
there to the topography of the land to keeping the water off the state highway.
Right,
So we do have an elevation issue there too, that we have to deal with.
right. But when that was
So
done,
Sylvia is your engineer?
Silver,
Silva. So we need to have him work with our new engineer on this matter, just hash this out a little bit.
Yeah, and now that we have one, so if that wasn't on the original scope of work, it should go on the one that we want them to look
I
at.
know he has topography issues for the state requirement of leaving the elevation a little higher so the water wouldn't run off the property onto the state road.
Especially with it being a new engineer, it's best that they get to know this property the best they possibly can. So if that's not something that they were originally going to look at, they definitely should then now. You know what I mean? Again, if they're only going to look at it because it needs to be reviewed by the new people, and it wasn't something that they were gonna add on, then I would like them to add that on.
At least to work with the engineer on it, to get some kind of idea, because the state highway thing is something's big. I remember seeing an email in one of the department heads that stated they don't want the speed bumps. But I can't remember which one it was.
There was an email that Carrie sent out, I just found, to us on the 10th of October.
Something about
The email on the 10th was a reference from,
the speed bumps. What the department wanted to know is why they're there. That's what
exactly,
it was.
yes. And
Why
why
are
they
they
were
So
there?
there.
they weren't saying no.
No,
No,
why
no,
they're
he
there.
was saying-
That's what it
he-
is.
What he said also is that he was never asked,
Does they have to be?
was aware. So the question I'm curious
Sure.
of is, these roads right now are private way, am I correct?
Sees everything.
And is the plan to have them become public way or no?
long-term, that is the idea. Yep.
So then
So
would,
it was approved.
so I know we had talked at one time about speed bumps and the question of speed bumps, but
Yeah, so I want to pull back what I stated. I do agree with what Jonathan just said. Wanted to know why they were there,
Why they're there.
yeah.
So the question is, if they're there now, because apparently, it sounds like you did install speed bumps, and my question is, if this is eventually going to become a public way, and I'm not sure the answer to this, did you get approval from the police department or the fire department?
Well, he wouldn't need it. He wouldn't need
Not
it.
until,
I
not
don't know
till the
that.
town
He wouldn't,
accepts
it's,
it, yeah.
right now, it's private. He doesn't need it.
I
And,
didn't need permission.
Right,
yeah.
that's why I'm asking.
And it sounds
rhetorically.
like that since you
Right.
put the speed bumps, people are just going around and cutting into grass.
Have you guys noticed any change at all for the better with him?
Presented to me, a hazard out there. And how can I discourage them from going that way? Well, let's slow down, maybe there won't be so much fun going out that way.
It's
To me, with the police department and the fire department,
It's-
saying it's an issue.
it sounds like, I mean, if they're causing, it sounds like they're causing more harm than good in the sense that they're causing the car just to go around them.
Was there concern of speed?
There was, I mean, yeah, that was
don't-
one thing
I
that was.
don't remember.
was an issue.
Was,
No,
who
it
said there
wasn't?
was an issue with speed?
Who's concerned about speed?
That's what I wanna know. I don't remember.
Yeah, because at one point, it was stated that they were put in to cut down access out so that emergency vehicles could come.
Right.
But emergency vehicles and speed bumps to me don't go together, but
Right.
Be in the back of the gurney.
So did someone reach out to you?
So when I just went back into those emails, I believe the way the emails were sent is that there was a resident who sent an email to the fire chief
Okay.
concerned about the speed bumps.
Okay.
And the fire chief's response was to say, as far as he was concerned, as far as he knew, this was not a town road.
Right. It's true.
And he wanted to share the concern with the ZBA. It was a resident concern. And then, I'm not sure if Carrie may have asked for the chief's input on this and we're still waiting to hear.
Oh,
But I don't believe the concern was originated from the town departments. I think it was originated from residents of Stonegate Canyon.
Okay. So now, in terms of how and why, why the speed bumps got there in the first place, did someone because she's right. I don't remember at a meeting someone mentioning
Right in
it.
the middle, there's 18 feet, so it's probably 5 feet on either side.
No, but what I'm asking is that at one of our meetings, she's right. I don't remember a resident stating at a meeting they felt that speed was a problem. Did someone reach out to you personally saying that speed was a
No one
problem?
saw me about it, no.
So why were they put there?
Why
So,
were they put
why
there?
were they put there?
They were put there because this board asked me to stop traffic going out, leaving the subdivision. It was intended as a one-way in, then it became a two-way, and then I was told the police and the fire department were having issues that it was dangerous to people to come out. And I just thought if I slowed everything down a little bit, maybe it would make a safer intersection.
How many speed bumps are there right
Three.
now? How many?
3.
3. So to control the flow of the direction of the traffic, you thought slowing it down would help?
Say me again?
Because the direction of the traffic was the concern. So you thought slowing it down would help?
The people would leave, most people would have that end of the subdivision, just go out there regularly. And so I thought if there's one woman who has illegal access on that to her house, so I put one just in front of her entrance, and then she'd have to go over it. And then if you're going out, I mean, it really isn't that much of a burden, you just have to go a little slow.
I would say take them out.
Are they permanent ones that you dug in, or are they?
No, they're not permanent.
No,
Oh, no,
they're
they
rubber.
all can be removed. Just gotta get a machine that.
So,
They can-
when, at the end of the day, the engineer does this thing first.
So they
But I
put
mean,
9-inch spikes that go right down
I-
through, and that's how you secure them. They can come out.
The only reason why I'm saying we shouldn't wait for the engineer for that aspect of it is because if the current speed bumps are making cars go around and onto people's properties and sideswiping their cars, and they don't need to be there, we didn't ask them to be there, then they shouldn't be there. Especially if right now it's doing more, if they were like, oh no, it's great, everyone slowed down, then hey, whatever, more power to you. But it sounds like that's not the case, and it's doing more harm than good. So in that case, I say take them out.
Well, the person's property they go on is mine. It's nobody else's. It's all my property. So I don't care if they wanna pull over the side.
But they're not pulling over to the side, they're pulling onto the resident's grass and hitting their cars. There's a difference between going around them and hitting the sidewalk and going around them and driving over their yards and hitting their cars. That's the difference.
Is it such a burden just to slow down and go over one and then the other one? I mean, what is the?
But the speed's not, the speed isn't, no one is complaining saying that slowing down is an issue.
So the reason why he's saying he put them out there was to stop deter from exiting, but that's not really a deterrent from exiting that side either. It's
So what they're
still-
doing is like, well, okay, I wanna go that way, something's in my way, I'm gonna go around it and still go the way I wanna go. As opposed to a gate where it's like, okay, I literally can't go any further now. I'm not saying put a gate, I'm not saying put a
by
gate,
any means.
I'm just saying, not saying to do that.
You can always make them 14 feet wide.
No.
They'll end up in the ditch if they go around them then.
I mean,
From a public safety concern, not even car and property damage included, it's, again, emergency vehicles and speed bumps do not go in the same sentence, except to say they shouldn't be there.
like I
So
said,
even though it's a private road, and I know that you guys are gonna keep telling me it's a private road, I get it, but like your police department cars, your fire department cars, your ambulances, whatever that are reporting there, are the ones that are trying to fly through there that save someone's life.
right, and Richard, I think I appreciate that you're trying to figure out something to do, and it's better than saying, no, I'm not gonna do that, but it sounds like it's not working, so I would I mean, again, it's a private road, it's not, I mean, I can't say what to do, but I would recommend and suggest you take them out if it's,
When I had a meeting back in July 6th with Tom Perry and Shaheen from Green International,
Yeah.
we talked about all those options, and one was to just make it a one-way in for emergency vehicles only.
right, okay, but
You can rip them out,
then I say, then rip them out.
right, and then we put a gate at the end with a key box, for the fire
Well,
department.
I mean, I would not recommend doing anything like that.
How are we gonna keep them from leaving? I mean,
So
what do
you're
we
gonna
do?
take speed bumps out to put in a key box fixture of some kind, so you take the speed bumps out for emergency vehicles to report faster, but then they have to stop at a key box.
That's everywhere around.
Where? I've never
There's
seen
one way in, everywhere they got a fire department key box and a police key box. It's very, very common.
No.
So why don't you just not use
I
it?
think we're getting really out of order.
So go that way.
All right, guys, so.
I mean,
I'll
I
take
need,
them out.
okay, wait,
Richard, I mean,
can we,
Rip them out, I mean,
Let's take out the speed bumps. It's
It's causing more
it's
grief
causing
than cycling.
property damage by people going around it. I say take them out.
And,
What was the thing you had
we had the engineer gonna talk with Silva,
about the curb cut?
Right.
curb cut, we're gonna work on that.
Yep.
Yes,
With our
absolutely,
engineer now,
yeah.
we're gonna take care of that. So the state cut's under control, playground's taken care of, and so the only thing that we're waiting on is our engineer to get together with you, our engineer to go over the review. And other than that, I don't believe I have any other concerns in that piece of property until we get the state telling us how the engineering's gonna go, how the water's being determined on the property and all that. But that's all engineering, I can't go
Right.
any further,
Well,
so.
we'll have to wait. I mean, I don't know if we'll have that ready by the next meeting. I'm not sure how long
I
it will take.
doubt it, but at least
I mean,
we'll have someone in
from-
front of us
from
talking.
What I understand about this new board that we've gone with, they're
Mm-hmm.
very, very good. I don't think time is going. I don't think it'll be January. I think
Okay.
I'm not saying we'll get it done for November, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did. I don't know exactly, but so it's possible that we could.
I'm willing to take them out next
Okay,
week.
Okay.
I'll just get them out.
all right,
Okay.
We can worry about them, that's okay.
Okay.
thank you.
Any residents of the public, again, I'm going to say this one only time. If it's HOA, I'm not talking about it. If it's related to something specific with your property, you'll have to take it up with him, but if it's something related to what we've discussed tonight, feel free to just make sure you state your name for the record. Sorry, we have to have it on the audio.
Hi, my name is Lisa Paquette. I'm 947 Stonegate. You've heard from me before because I had the flooding issue with all the pictures and everything.
Yep.
And I came to the meeting tonight just to set the record straight because at the July 25th meeting, Richard said I agreed with his assessment of what was causing the drainage issue, and I don't. It is not resolved. I don't agree. I think it needs to be looked into further. I think there's water table issues.
Can we just, what was your address?
947
947.
So,
That is on our,
that
is on our
so
radar.
just so you know, we have an engineer company that we have been using. He recently retired, so we had to get a new one, who the town now has, and that's been signed on.
And
So
your
they're
case is
doing what's
on-
called a scope of what this company's doing is going through the entire project, looking at everything that they feel like needs to be done, but they're comparing it to the original one that was already done. So that's what we're waiting on. So we'll make sure that and Greg said that was already in there for them to look at anyway.
Yeah, the
Okay, and
house is-
Richard did come to my house with an engineer and Tom Petty on July 6th, and very,
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I was gonna say, wow,
Petty,
that's impressive.
Tom Petty, no, but,
We're all coming to your house.
and he said that it was my shrubs around my house that are causing the flooding in the back of my yard, and I don't think that's true. I think it
Well, we
needs to
have
be
a
looked at.
second engineer gonna be working with them, and we'll figure it out.
But when we have your address, so, if we have to have them take a look at a specific area, I mean, they're gonna look at everything, but if having your address is gonna help, so we know a specific area, to look at.
You know, when he left that day, he said he was gonna write a detailed report and send it here. And then he got canned.
Okay, because
No,
we
he
had talked
did-
about
let's
putting in
not say
drainage.
He didn't get canned, he retired.
He's just not around here.
He retired.
Big difference.
Jeez.
All right, is there
Next.
anyone else related to any of these issues that were discussed tonight?
It's just a quick question.
What is
on
the
Francine.
name? Francine?
Yeah,
I'm gonna sit here only because I have no chance.
That's fine.
And then, what's your address?
942 Stonegate Landing, number 1.
Number 1. Okay,
Oh, it's just a question about the road that we're talking about.
Yep.
Is it possible to put a light there? Because at night,
Like a street light or like a
street light,
oh, okay.
yeah. And a long time ago, before Stonegate Landing was even finished or started,
Yeah.
there was a nice sign, and it said Stonegate Landing.
I remember that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So why can't we have a nice sign instead of my telling my friends when they come over, look for the red roof?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? So, and how many times when it's dark, I go by my entrance, then I have to turn around.
For that light, where exactly were you thinking it should go? I mean, I'm trying to picture.
Yeah, well, probably to the right when you're coming in, so that
Okay.
we can see, right or left, it doesn't matter as long as we can see coming in.
Marguerite, how would
So-
that? I mean, that is a valid question. I mean, how would we go about doing that?
I think, I've been taking notes, and and what I'm hearing, so the scope of work you've asked to have it include the curb cut, which would also, make sure that the curb cut permit is taken care of.
Yeah.
And look at the radius of that entrance to Stonegate Landing along Route 138, as well as the topography to ensure that there isn't drainage onto the state highway.
Yeah.
I then heard you ask about, then providing input into, ways to address the one-way access, concerns, or really the egress concerns.
Right.
And their recommendations about how to address that. And then with, this resident's comments, my other suggestion would be that they review the lighting plan, the final lighting plan for the development that was approved
Okay.
prior to construction, and ensure that all appropriate lighting has been installed, and also determine if there's any recommendations to any further lighting that might be needed.
Okay. And the one thing that I don't know if you heard this about the flooding, was that so that was not in there?
No, that was part of the original, I remember
Oh,
hearing
okay.
about that,
The original,
and I
okay.
think that was included, but I will triple check.
Okay. Okay. And about the sign, when we've had other developments like this, the fire department has a concern with it causing confusion. Like when people if someone calls in, oh, there's a fire in Stonegate Landing. Well, if that's not an actual street, it can cause confusion as to like the Pines over there. That was one of the big things that right we discussed about. I mean, I think they eventually the fire department said that they were fine with it, and we ended up putting it in anyway. Not we, but I mean,
They did, yeah.
They did do it. Is that something that, I mean, was that on your plans to put a sign there? Because she's right, there was a sign there a long, long time, I remember it, a long time ago.
It was a site sign that went up in 2004. It rotted out.
Yeah, it was just a wooden, it was just a wooden one at that point, but I mean,
Don't make wood that long.
I don't even remember on the updated plans, were there ever plans for a sign?
It was there for a
No, but
decade.
plans to
No,
put
no,
The question is,
We have
A new sign.
We have a sign.
are you ever planning to put another sign up there?
Like, we're asking is that, were there plans to put a more permanent landscaped sign at the entrance of the project?
Well, we have two entrances. Well, we only
Well,
have one.
we'll see on that one, but.
I mean, it's got a stone wall. We can put a sidewalk and a stone gate.
No, not that, but,
What?
no, but we have a little sign that says Stonegate Landing when you're coming in from the street.
Yeah, I think the one thing that disappeared, and Francis is right, was the street sign, right on.
That's the name of the road, is Stonegate Landing.
Street sign, you put it on the wall.
Right, so part of the issue what we had with other developments where if it was hypothetically, let's say it was called the Maple Grove, whatever, but the street was not called Maple Grove Street, it was called Blueberry Avenue, and you said, oh my God, we got into an accident on Maple Grove Avenue, and they're like, well, that's not a street, I don't even know where you're talking about. That's why the fire department said the sign thing caused confusions like that. So the sign that's there that says Stonegate Landing is because coincidentally, that road is called, as of right now, is called Stonegate Landing.
The name of the project and the name of the street.
Right, which is not always the case, and sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
I have a suggestion, I think, to me, you know, you thought, when you come in off the street, so if you're coming south of 138, you know, you have those two big rocks. Before the two big rocks, there's a telephone pole with a street sign on it. Then you go past the rocks, there's another telephone pole,
Yeah.
no light. We could just get that lamp moved from one pole to the other.
Well,
It would light that whole
Yeah,
intersection.
that's gonna be on the new scope of work, they're gonna look at all the lighting.
The lighting's trying to make sure it's correct.
We can paint the big rocks fuchsia. I always want to do that.
Any more questions?
All right.
No? All right, so that's where we stand with this matter.
Okay.
So we'll get to the updated scope of work whenever we have it done.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Just let me know, and I know I've been here every week, I've been months this much, but I might be traveling Thanksgiving that 28th, and it sounds like you guys may not all be here either, but.
So we might not have it, okay, so,
That's all right. We'll
Yes.
figure it
we're not
out.
gonna be voting on anything that day
That gives
anyway,
the
but.
engineer, a little time to get his
So
stuff
if you
together.
wanna let him know that we're likely not going to be discussing any, if the residents have something they want to submit, that's fine, but the developer will likely not be here. So don't feel like that they have a rush to get that done for the November 28th meeting. If they do, great, and we'll sure look at it before that, but there's no immediate rush for it.
So do you want me to attend that meeting, or would you want me to wait until the December meeting?
I guess if you wanna wait only, if we get the scope of work done before that and we feel like we can discuss it, and we have enough people here to discuss it, then sure, so I would say as of right now, no. But if we get the report sooner and we do, and you are able to come, great, but it won't be a big deal if you can't either way.
Well, I can come on the 28th, I'm just wondering what you're planning on doing for December, because the next
Well, I just,
Tuesday of the month in December is December 25th.
Of course it is.
And town hall is closed.
So is the ZBA.
So I just thought that if there's a chance I may not appear in November, I may as well ask you tonight if you have any thoughts about December, and you obviously, I know it's not necessarily on your agenda, so I thought I'd just raise that.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll have to see what we got, but I mean,
So my suggestion would be that if you do have this on your agenda next month and I'm not here, that you vote to continue this to a date certain.
okay.
It may or may not be a regular meeting of the board, it's up to you, you could make it a special meeting of the board if you want to.
Tuesday?
We would only have to do it this specific day if Oh,
So
we
another-
can change it as long as
Should we do it the week before, or is anybody else conflict
well,
with that?
that's why it'd be just a matter of if the building was being
Like the 19th of December?
The 19th, I'll have to double check that. My
If we
laptop
need to
just
meet-
died.
If we need to meet, I'm stating.
don't know.
Okay.
I'm trying not to do that with the Christmas
Like I
myself.
said, I know, being on the Hunter Historical Commission, we meet here, but that's the second Tuesday, and that's at 6.
Okay.
So we would be, I mean, but that's not the 19th, so we'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm
so.
just trying to say
I
the
bet
week
someone else
before
might be-
Christmas, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So if necessary, we can maybe look at that.
Okay.
If not, at that point, I would say we're just not gonna meet in December.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not gonna do it closer to Christmas, and we're not gonna do it.
We already did our August that we're not supposed to do.
Mr. Fedorov, should we
So you get your December off.
That's right.
expect you here next month or not expect you? What do you
Oh,
say?
he's always walked away. We already said no. Probably
All
not.
right. Okay.
Okay. All right. So we are still going on. Public input. Do you guys have anything?
So I
Hang
just
on.
wanted to clarify too, the scope of work piece doesn't need, like, it's not as though the zoning board needs to approve it.
No, I know.
That can take place behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and I would suspect that that will actually be done well before the November meeting. So the expectation would be that you would get started on some of that work. The board may not actually necessarily have a meeting about this, and you may or may not decide to meet in November or December, but, come January, I would say you should have a pretty full update being
Okay.
reported to you, understanding that some of this will now be weather driven too.
Right. Okay. Okay. Any correspondence tonight? Oh, Myra, were you here for anything else regarding Stonegate Landing? I mean, we have a bunch of butters here. Was there anything that you wanted to address to them specifically, or?
Not that, unless somebody had a question, I'm happy to answer,
Do you guys have any
questions.
questions for our attorney while she's here? Sorry, say that again. Do you have any questions for the town, for the zoning board attorney while she's here? I just asked if she had anything for you guys, and she said no, but if they have any questions for me, I'll answer them. I just don't know if you guys had anything specific.
I think our biggest concern, my name's Andrea Sheedy, 960 Stonegate Landing. I think our biggest concern as a community is the fact that there is no bond for
Oh, that's right.
property.
Right. That's a very valid concern.
We, as, a community, don't wanna be on the hook for finishing that road or anything else that might need to be done, should Mr. Fedorov walk away.
I remember that was talked about how we were going to look at that because there is no bond, right?
And I know that in one of the very first meetings that Richard was coming back to a few months ago,
Yep.
there was talk about the engineer coming in and kind of doing a survey of what needs to be done.
Right, and that one, right.
Right, and I think at that time, it was maybe suggested that after you got that figure of what it would cost, that the possibility would be of getting a bond at that point.
So we had that back, and then that engineer retired. So now that is going to be reviewed by our new. That when
Right.
I was talking about this, so like that will be when we get that back from then. That's what we'll have that figure back.
So there would still be a conversation about possibly getting a new bond for that work.
Right. I mean that's.
I don't think
So,
there was a bond.
there was a bond, it was a $7 million bond many years ago on this property. The town had agreed to bond it in phases. No one envisioned, of course, that we would be here where we are at this many years later. And the work was done on a per phase basis. There were 2 phases combined together in the bond. The infrastructure for these 2 phases needed to be completed before they began construction on those phases. There were some amendments done over the years where, for instance, the sewer pump station was allowed to be completed a little later into the development. But bonding was done, the initial infrastructure was done, the final roadway work, the top coat, all of those pieces would have been part of a later phase. When this first came back before the board a few months ago, it came back before the board on an application for a modification that would have involved a new owner purchasing the subsequent phases. That application has since been withdrawn. Should Mr. Fedorov decide to ever begin to develop the next phases, absolutely, there's a requirement that there be a bond provided. Should a new developer come in and want to develop those two phases, there's a requirement that a bond be provided. The only missing piece really for a bond is that, at this stage, is that the bond was for the infrastructure, and there potentially, and since this development was permitted and the town began operating with these types of bonds, it has since undertaken the practice of retaining a little bit of a holdback. I think at the most you'd be talking about like a $50,000 holdback. It wouldn't be a lot of money. It would be nowhere near what the original amount of the bond was, because that bond was getting released as the infrastructure was being constructed for the development. So there is a chance, perhaps, once this peer review engineer comes in and provides a presentation to the board, that there may be some infrastructure work that needs to be done. And there may need to be, in order to obtain certain relief, there may need to be a request made before the board for some modifications, and there could be a bond attached to a condition in order to ensure that all the work is completed. That hasn't happened yet. There is nothing pending before this board. So at the moment, there isn't a bond obligation on the developer, because the developer already bonded the first two phases of the project and completed the work associated with that bond, and it was released.
So as of right now, the only way a bond could be put in would be, but we'd have to wait for the scope of work to come back first, correct?
So the way that a bond would happen in one of two ways. Either someone would want to begin construction of the next phases, in which there is a requirement already that work be bonded first.
Would have to, right?
Some sort of performance guarantee is provided. Or in the course of this town engineer reviewing the existing infrastructure and some of the existing concerns with the development that the zoning board's been hearing about,
Yep.
there may be some recommendations that there be a modification made to the permit.
Okay.
And through the course of that modification request, some type of bonding might be part of the conversation that would be a condition of any modification approval.
Yep.
But nothing's pending before the board at the moment.
So
And it's not known yet exactly what type of work needs to be done to fully complete phases 1 and 2, and what that would entail and how that would interact with all of the conditions of the comprehensive permit. So I think that discussion is still out there. I think that there's an absolute obligation that to move forward into phases 3 and 4, there has to be further bonding provided. That already exists. The question really is, right now, there's a possibility that either phases 3 and 4 don't get developed, so what are we going to do to bring the phases 1 and 2 to completion?
Right.
And treat subdivision solely as a phases 1 and 2 subdivision, which, will require certain additional actions with the state, as well. Or if he wants to sell phases 3 and 4 to a new owner, we still have to bring phases 1 and 2 to completion. And there's still work that needs to be done to do that.
Which is what started this whole thing in the beginning.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
So,
I need your name for the record.
Sorry, a name? Sorry, name?
I'm sorry, Tom Krinsky, 951 Stonegate Landing.
Okay.
We were kind of told that the bond had expired, because the phases aren't done. I'm not sure what the work constitutes for phase 1 and 2.
So that's what she was saying, was that it
They're
didn't.
not, I know, I heard that it was released in phases, but it's not done. And we were kind of under the impression that the bond had expired.
No,
Not
there was
that
no
it was
expiration of the
released.
bond. The property was originally bonded in phases.
All right, well,
There was
we were given the wrong
this,
information.
this development consists of 4 phases. Originally, they started bonding the property phase by phase. They decided when the first initial performance guarantee was created, which was a tripartite agreement. It was money with the bank, held with the bank, released to the developer, who was not Mr. Fedorov at the time. And it was with the town's approval, which you gave when your engineer went out and approved that the work had been completed. It was determined fairly quickly into that process that it would make more sense to bond phases 1 and 2 together. Leaving phases 3 and 4, which have yet to even begin
Yeah,
to be
but phase
developed.
1 and 2 aren't even done yet, so how are they releasing bonds if it's not even done yet?
So the bonding was never intended to be, to cover the completion of phases 1 and 2 to a point of being independent of themselves, because again, this project was originally viewed and still is viewed and is still able to be developed as in 4 phases. There's a lot more to this project that is yet to even begin to be constructed.
Can I ask a follow-up question? I think if I understood you correctly, if Mr. Fedorov sold this land to a new developer, a new bond would be required, correct? But if Tardanico sold it to Mr. Fedorov, why wasn't a new bond required?
Because Mr. Fedorov purchased the entire property and continued to develop it. At that time, all that needed to, I may be wrong, I'd have to go back into my file many, many years ago, but I believe at that time, when Mr. Fedorov purchased the property, it was houses that needed to be constructed. He was going to take the money from those houses to begin the development for the next phases. And that's when the new bond would have come in. But there was no infrastructure work that needed to be done in order to sell the houses in phases 1 and 2 at that time. Now, it's a different stance that's been presented to this board. The board had a new developer come in who was not interested in having anything to do with phases 1 and 2. They wanted phases 1 and 2 completed and brought to where they had no responsibility and no liability for that. The only way this board was even willing to consider that would be to ensure that phases 1 and 2 were fully completed and were fully tied, reviewed and signed off on before they began any work on phases 3 and 4. So that's the difference. The difference was that Mr. Fedorov purchased the entire development. He didn't only purchase half of the development, he's trying to sell just half of the development. This board is saying that's not how that can work. It typically doesn't work that way in a 40B permit.
I got one other thing too. I know you keep mentioning 4 phases. There was a modification, I don't remember which modification, but there was a modification changing it from 4 to 2.
Right, so there's now, I believe it's now phase A and B.
Okay.
So B is phases 3 and 4.
Correct.
And A was 1 and 2.
Right.
But back when the bond was created, we didn't have that plan yet. So now you would need a bond. Once any work is done on phase B, there is an obligation that already exists in the comprehensive permit that work in phase B has to be bonded. And that would have been required whether it's Mr. Fedorov developing it or a new developer. But if Mr. Fedorov plans not to be the one developing phase B and he wants to sell that to somebody else, this board already told him that they were only willing to even begin to consider that if Mr. Fedorov ensured that phase A was fully completed and there was likely going to need to be some bonded money to cover that. Because this was not planned out where phase A would exist separately from phase B. That's not the way that this was permitted or this was presented or approved to the board. This would be a modification to make it that way.
So Marguerite, for the purposes of, I think, some of the clarification of the residents, when the bond was released, originally, when the rest of the bond was released for what was then phase 1 and 2, now phase A, what had to be completed and approved in order for that bond to be released? What was the point of no return?
I mean, it
Is that
was
what you're
all
asking?
of the infrastructure that was associated with that. It was a multi-million-dollar bond. I want to say there was about 20 different releases of funds from it over the course of the 1.5 to 2 years that the infrastructure was being constructed for those 2 phases at the time. Now phase A. And I just would have to go, I mean, again, I don't have it sitting in front of me because my file consists of, you know, multiple file folders and drawers and other things, so I'd have to go search for that particular document that was the original scope of work that existed with that tripartite agreement. But there was a significant amount of engineering work, site development work, infrastructure-based work that had to be completed, and that was completed. It was completed to the level that it needed to be completed to get them through phase 1 and 2 or phase A. It was not completed. When I say the word completed, I don't mean that it was like the final top coat. It wasn't bringing the project to a conclusion. It wasn't the conclusive work, because that work was part of phase B. So, you know, again, if anyone had ever expected that this development was not going to, was only phases 1 and 2 would have been done, phase A would have been done, that it wasn't going to be moved forward and brought to a conclusion within 5 or 6 years, everyone would have responded to this in a very different way. It was never foreseen this way. And hindsight is what it is, but right now the board's authority is to ensure that any work done for phase B will be bonded because it's required to be bonded. And if there's no intention for Richard to complete phase B, the board is now looking to have, and Richard has agreed to have, its peer review engineer take a look at what is needed to bring phase A to a conclusion. And there may be a conversation in that review that would entail further bonding for phase A.
I have one more question. When those bonds get released, whose engineer is the one that makes that final determination of like you completed whatever it was, release the funds? Is it the towns or is it the developers?
It's the town.
No,
The bond existed at that time through what was called a tripartite agreement. So money was held with the bank, the developer and their engineers would complete the work. They would then reach out to the town. The town's engineer would go on site to inspect the work. They would agree that that work was done. They would receive a request to release a certain amount of money to account for that work. They would agree or disagree with the amount of money, that it was appropriate based on site inspections that they did. And as I said, all of that does exist in my files. I have pretty thick, file parts relating to all of that work when it was done. But I believe it was in 2002, 2003.
Is there a way for us to get a copy of that, or is that like not public record?
Nope, it would exist in the town files as well.
Okay.
I'm sure that Carrie, you probably have several file drawers that they could come and take a look at.
And nothing that we as the town has is private. I'm not saying we're gonna have it. We know exactly where it is and it's ready to go. But there's nothing that we have that we're gonna say you can't see that. So I mean,
like the tri-party agreement, if there was like an extra.
I just don't want people to think that there was no work ever done around a bond, or that this wasn't, the problem we have is the passage of time. This property was bonded, it was bonded consistent with the practice that you use for other 40Bs. It's just those 40Bs have been fully developed and brought to conclusion in a much shorter period of time than this particular development has.
So phase B residents will be protected by the town, but phase A residents are kind of just in limbo and.
That's not what she said. That's not what she said. No, she said that phase B's bond, if it shall be done, the top coat must be involved for phase A before we'll allow phase B to be completed.
Do you know if that's the case? Is it only the requirement for the top coat, or are there other?
Well, that's why we have our engineer now going out to take a look. 'Cause it's been over,
It's
been over 20 years, so we want to make sure before we do the top coat, it's right.
Okay, so it's literally like it could be top coat, this, that. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's the way it was written, is how she said it, is phase A 1 and 2 was bonded, and then the bond was released for the infrastructure to concern that in phase B, the top coat would be done. You don't want equipment running on your road now either, while they're doing phase B until the top coat is done. So that's what she's saying. She didn't say that Phase A is gonna be out to lunch because Phase B is okay. So Phase A is, the top coat is supposed to be completed when Phase B is to be done, but as we said, we want our peer engineer to go out there, the new one, with Sylvia, with his guy. They hash out what their concerns might be on all the properties that we've already talked about. They'll come back, give us the review, and at that point, then we start discussing the bond. Am I correct in what we discussed, everything you just said?
Sorry, one final question on that same point. So if your engineer and his engineer disagree and they hash it out, what happens if it's like a stalemate?
I believe our engineer supersedes that.
Well, they need town approval in order to
What I'm saying, I think we,
move forward in certain things, so generally that resolves itself, either through a modification request or, further conversation with the engineers. I mean, they both are obligated to follow standard engineering professional practice.
When he said the two engineers go out there, he means they both go out separately. They don't work together to
they're
start.
not walking together, but it's just so they're on the same
Right.
page.
Independent review. There's
Correct.
something that sounds like if you don't do this, we're not.
Correct.
Based on engineering standards, essentially they hopefully should have the same.
You would think, right?
Result.
Right, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it for questions, Margaret. Is there anything else you want to add, or you're all set?
No.
Anybody on the board?
All right, so I think we're all set for this case.
Good.
So you guys are all set. Moving on to the approval of the meeting minutes for August 22nd, 2023. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the meeting minutes for August 22nd, 2023?
Make a motion to approve the minutes for August 22nd, 2023.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion on the floor to approve the meeting minutes for September 26th, 2023?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for September 26th, 2023.
Is there a second? Second. Oh! I thought it was going to be Dave because he jumped on the first time. We have 2 seconds.
2 seconds and we're done.
All in favor?
No, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any public input? Well, not public input, but input from the board to discuss anything? So before everyone goes, every year we have a list of who can, in hierarchy of who can sign off on payroll. It's always me, unless I'm on vacation and I literally cannot do it. Now that it's an email, before I would have to literally go to town hall every single Monday to sign. But now that we can do an email, it's even if I'm on vacation or something, but we do designate other people, like God forbid, I'm in the hospital and can't get to my phone, and who else would do it? So it goes by order of, so it's Greg and then John. We had years ago, put on every voting member on after that. Typically we don't. I don't remember why, but there was something came up back with, I think it must have been even Nicole.
Ooh.
A while back where I couldn't get there because I was traveling for work. Greg also couldn't get there because he was traveling for work. John was third in line, but he couldn't get a ride.
I had to meet her at Dunkin' Donuts to sign it.
That was a time where we literally had all three people couldn't do it. So who does it?
Right.
That's why we said, all right, to avoid this issue happening again, we'll just put all the other members on as it's kind of like when the president's gone, it's vice president, then who kind of thing. So at least you only get to sign payroll if everybody else on this side of the table can't get to it. It's like the whole Prince Harry's never gonna be king unless William and all his kids die.
If you see Kerry call you, then there's a reason.
At that point, there are bigger concerns if none of us can get down there. Something big is going on. But because that's what we have written, we all do have to print our name and then sign. If anyone has opposed and does not want to be, that's fine. But just so on the top part, you just gotta print your name, and then there are 2 separate signatures that will be required on the lines below. Marguerite, do you have anything else? I'm assuming Eric and Jessica are from Stonegate? If not, and they have something else to discuss, they should. Hello?
No, just listening in, yes, we're from Stonegate, thank you, just listening in, no comments.
Okay, no problem. Is there anything else any board members want to discuss? Terry, do you have anything?
I got nothing.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I was gonna say no one. Is there a
You were
second?
waiting for me, weren't you?
I was waiting for somebody. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Hasta luego.
Good night, happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thanksgiving.
Aye.